Welcome to an edition of Boxing Info. I'm your host, the Islander, and this is the results show, week ending basically April 11th, as today is April the 13th. I want to go over some results. Last fight that I previewed was the 108-pound rematch between Giovanni Segura and Ivan Calderon, and as this fight went like I thought, Segura was able to make weight and was able to impose his will very quickly on Calderon, in which he swarmed him again. Calderon was unable to hurt him, and eventually, I think it was one of the guys on the board brought up an interesting point about this, and that is that Segura landed a lot of blows on Calderon's hips and things of that nature, and not that that was going to make a difference in the fight anyway, because when you have one big strong guy like Segura is against a technical artist, which is what Calderon is, and the artist cannot keep the plotting guy off of him because of his size advantage and because of a lack of power, this result's going to keep repeating itself. And that's what I initially thought when the rematch was made. I didn't expect it then in the third round. It was a right hand to the body that finally put Calderon down for the count. Good win for Segura, but let's be honest about this. If we're being honest and we're being forthright, Giovanni Segura should not be fighting any more fights in the 108-pound division, and technically he shouldn't be fighting any fights in the 112-pound division. He should be at 115, and if he's going to come into the ring at 121 pounds, that's fine. And here's my point in belaboring this, because technically, if a guy can get to a weight on the day of the fight, I think it's fair. If a guy can get to the weight the day before the fight, and this is the reason why this is very dangerous at the lower weights. It was explained to me by a very knowledgeable boxing person a long time ago. In the lower weight classes, if you take, and I wish I had my whiteboard to illustrate this to you, if you take somebody that weighs 105 pounds, or in this case 108 is the limit that they had to get down to, and they rehydrate up to 121 pounds. Now I'm trying to put this to fractional use real quick. I should have had this done beforehand. 108 of 121 equals, alright, it's 108 pounds of 121 gained, so it's 108, come on calculator, times 100 divided by 121 is 89.25%. And with that said, I'm hoping this isn't messing up my my video. Giovanni Segura gained 10.75% of his own body weight, increased his body weight 10 3/4% basically. An increase from the weigh-in to the time of the fight when he entered the ring at 121. I don't remember what, I don't know if it was 111 or what it was. No, it couldn't have been. Maybe I thought it was 112. I don't know what, I forgot what Calderon came in at. Let's assume it was 112, okay? So you got 108 times 100 divided by 112 is 96.4. So basically, he gained, if he came in at 112, he gained only a little bit less than 4% of his own body weight, as opposed to 10% gain. There's the difference. This is, and this was brought up, I didn't remember this was brought up when Arturo Gatti blew out Joey Gamache, and he had hydrated way up. They came in at 140, and Arturo Gatti's coming into the ring at 150 something. I mean, it was like just insane. And in the lighter weight classes like this, it's significant. So if you want to do fights like this, I am an advocate for same-day weigh-ins. If a guy can make the weight, like Margarito makes welterweight, Segura makes 108, that's all fine. You do it the day of the fight, and that'll keep the playing field level. Even if it was the day of the fight, Segura was still going to win this fight. Let's be clear about that. Okay, that's that. Now let's go to some results for fights I did not preview, and it's a good thing I didn't do this preview, because I would have egg all over my face for like third consecutive show. Friday night fights. A lot of you had a big take on this, in which actually back it up. Last Thursday, Avellino79, welcome back, and thank you for sending me the link out just an hour or two after this fight was over on Thursday of last week. Johnny Gonzalez, or I should say Friday, Johnny Gonzalez won the WBC featherweight title with a stunning 4th round TKO over Hozumi Hasegawa. This fight almost played out very similar to the one with Hasegawa's loss to Fernando Montiel. He was doing pretty good. He got a little bit too confident. And I would say when I was first watching it, it looked like Gonzalez hit him with a straight right hand down the pipe. It wasn't. He winged a right hand from the side, and Hasegawa's face crashed into it, and down he went on the seat of his pants against the ropes. He got right back. He got up, and his legs did not look good, and the referee stopped the fight. I'm of the belief there was a lot of time left in the round. Was a stoppage correct? Yes, but as a champion, I think I'd give him the benefit of the doubt of trying to survive. The only problem is people make assumptions, like the referee or like the officials, that one, there was too much time left in the round and Gonzalez was going to put a hurting on him. That's assumption number one, and it was probably a correct assumption. Assumption number two is that over the course of the next 8 rounds, one, Hasegawa really couldn't make any inroads on Gonzalez as far as hurting him, and now Gonzalez had the knowledge that he could hurt Hasegawa with a less than perfect punch. So, with that being said, I know some of you are going to argue that it was a perfect punch. I watched the replay about 100 times. It was not an orthodox straight right hand from inside the shoulders. It was like this winging punch from around the side. It still landed there straight, but it was outside his shoulders. It was a punch that should have been avoided or blocked. But again, it came from the blind side of a southpaw. So, fantastic win by Johnny Gonzalez. He's been looking good, as Avellino79 pointed out, with hooking up with Nacho Beristain, who's making him think safety first. And I think more importantly, the logistical necessities of boxing, where a feint or throwing away a punch will produce a counter that you can recounter, which is what Ricardo Lopez and what Juan Manuel Marquez and Rafael Marquez made careers out of. So it's good to see Johnny Gonzalez back in the win column. Alright, Friday night fights. David Lemieux, who's been knocking guys out in the first round. You all know what I think about prospects. And here came the test. Marco Antonio Rubio has taken all sorts of punishment in the past in different fights against different fighters, including Kelly Pavlik, and I've never seen him in real trouble. So when this fight got underway, of course David Lemieux started out smoking hot, launching right hands at Rubio. Rubio has had a change in style for this fight, and I know that Iga0117, who I'm going to get to a little bit more later explaining about some of the comments on the channel comments, thinks that this was like an upset in, and you wrote this, Iga, so I'm holding you to it. You thought this was an upset along the lines of Tyson and Douglas. Not even close. This was another prospect, much like Danny Jacobs getting smashed by Dmitry Pirog, that's been basically inflated up by their management and their promotional team and a TV network, ESPN, and faced his first really stern test against a true middleweight in Rubio, and basically failed. Now, this brings me back to a memory of a guy named Viktor Oganov. Remember him? What was he, 24-0 with 24 knockouts when he fought that Zuniga guy and got himself knocked out, and then his career went downhill from there? Same sort of thing, another knockout artist who ran into a guy that figured out, I'll play defense first, wear him out, and then go on the attack. And it looked like Lemieux had no answer to Rubio's right hand. Rubio did what he needed to cover up, basically stay away from shots, roll with them, block them, all this other kind of stuff, until finally Lemieux had no answers. He had no plan B. And Rubio started going on the attack, and the 6th round he hurt him and put him into the corner, and in the 7th round he was basically being pushed around the ring by Rubio, is what was happening, and the fight was basically stopped right there. His cornerman got on the ring apron and waved the fight off. It's that same referee that I forgot his name now, but that same referee that was the referee for Lucian Butte and why? Because his name slipped my mind. I was face right in my mind. That no count, end of the 12th round knockout that should happen when Butte was on the canvas. I don't know why my mind's going blank. Thinking of too many things at one time. Anyway, so a good win for Marco Antonio Rubio. The landscape in the middleweight division, and with Sergio Martinez sitting on the top, it shouldn't be too hard for him to get another title shot. He, a couple more wins and he'll deserve it. Those of you who may have bought the pay-per-view from New Jersey, the main events pay-per-view, Tomas Adamek tuned up for his fight with Vitaly Klitschko in September by winning a shutout 12-round decision over Kevin McBride. Unlike his fight, Adamek's fight with Michael Grant, there were no anxious moments in this fight. McBride had been off for a couple of years, could not catch up with Adamek, nor could he defend against Adamek, and basically only his size and 70-pound weight advantage kept him in this fight. Good win for Adamek. I don't know that any of this is going to get him through with the Klitschkos, because the thing about it is that even though he's been fighting guys the size of the Klitschkos, they pale in comparison in the skill department. So this is going to be it. But he's going to make it interesting. Let me put it to you that way. Good win for Tomas Adamek. 120-107 and 119-108 twice on the scorecards to tell you how one-sided it was. And then that brings us to the Golden Boy pay-per-view card, which I will say this, and I've been very hard on this company because I know that they exist for basically two reasons and two reasons only. One, to try to take over all the boxing, and two, to put Top Rank out of business. That's their whole, they wake up in the morning and that's the only things that they think of, basically. And one could say that even if I would have previewed this fight and say that they were not looking out for Erik Morales' best interest. One, Top Rank had cast him aside and told him it was time to retire. They didn't want to be responsible for his health anymore. Golden Boy seized an opportunity to take another Top Rank fighter and basically sign him. But in Golden Boy's defense, they gave a man a chance who deserved the chance. For all of the previous fights and wars that Erik Morales has been in and the entertainment he's given us over the years, Golden Boy gave him another opportunity. The first opportunity was they were trying to make a long-awaited fight between him and Juan Manuel Marquez, who the Morales people, whether it was Top Rank or it was, the man, Nacho, I don't know, his management team or whatever, Barrera, Prince Ahmed, and Morales had avoided Marquez for years and years and years. And when it came time for this fight, Marquez basically turned the other shoe and said, you made me wait for this fight. You didn't want to fight me when we were both in our primes. Forget about it. I'm waiting on Pacquiao or whatever. I'm waiting on a fight with Zab Judah. And turnabout's fair play. I'm not going to blame Marquez for that. So Morales turned to what I would think is even a bigger challenge, and that would be the fight against Marcos Maidana. I'm going to go through that real quick. Danny Garcia won a 10-round near shutout decision over Nate Campbell. This wasn't even close. Campbell is now a stepping stone. He didn't look good in that fight against Ali Fanica, in which he couldn't make weight to defend his title, and he has looked steadily worse in every fight since then. I'm not going to begrudge a guy for trying to make money because he's had a rough time of it, but at the world-class level, I think he's finished. If he could get down to 135 again, it would be a different story, because I think he holds some sort of advantage, but his body's not allowing it. Paulie Malignaggi won a clear-cut decision over Jose Cotto, Miguel's little brother. A clear, decision win, and again, this is at welterweight. But the thing is that, against being a gatekeeper, Malignaggi is going to be, beat all of these guys. He's going to beat all of these guys. Like Jose Cotto, like the guy he stopped in his last fight. But when he steps up to the elite level, that's where the difference between the thoroughbreds and the horses out in the field are. And Malignaggi is caught, for those of you who know Major League Baseball, in the minor leagues, they go single A, double A, triple A, and then go straight to the major leagues. Malignaggi is a 4A guy. There is no league, really. He's better than most triple A'ers, but not good enough to be in the big leagues, which is the elite level of boxing, the top 10 pound, compete with the top 10 or 20 pound for pound fighters in the world. That's where we're at with him. But you know, he's still doing his thing, and he still looks good. You know, where it's going to lead, I don't know. That's you know, my most honest assessment of this. And then this upset's bigger than the one with David Lemieux, in my opinion. James Kirkland doing the correct thing, and Golden Boy doing the correct thing by Kirkland, keeping him busy, being that his fights are very short to begin with. He's scoring a lot of first and second round knockouts. Put him in with a guy who wasn't thought to be that much of a puncher. Came in the fight with a record, Nobuhiro Ishida, came in the ring with a record of 22-6-2, only 8 knockouts. Well, this may be the upset of the year because, as usual, Kirkland came after him and got caught. Even though one punch was on the side of the head and it looked like it wasn't a legit knockdown, he had a hard time recovering, and Ishida used a strategy that I often tell people. He decided, if I'm going to go down, I'm going to go down swinging. And he didn't let Kirkland get ready. He basically caught Kirkland cold and basically knocked him down 3 times to win the fight. What's to come of this? There are a lot of people that think that Kirkland's just basically been, you know, hand-fed a bunch of stiffs, and now, and you know, he's been exposed. I think that, I was reading an interesting article on ESPN about this, that it's quite possible that this is just a setback very similar to Amir Khan had with Brady Prescott, getting careless and getting caught, as well as Vladimir Klitschko against Corey Sanders. The only difference in it, though, is that Corey Sanders and Brady Prescott were known deadly punchers. This guy is not. And I don't know whether it's this, you know, basically the 2 years being away really did take something out of Kirkland while he was in prison. I like the fact that he was, you know, basically came back in the super middleweight division and was working his way back down the middle, you know, junior middleweight, fight by fight, and staying busy. Those are all the most positive things you take from this. So this is kind of puzzling of why this happened. And just maybe he didn't, you know, there's one thing of having your body always physically ready to fight. There's another thing of having your mind ready to fight. And I'm not sure if his mind may not have been ready to fight on this night. And that's, I'll leave it at that. And then we had what I call a stalwart in a fight that I knew was going to go this way. Robert Guerrero wins 2 vacant interim lightweight titles. I think if you went to Starbucks and you said I'm the WBO and WBA or whatever the hell it was, IBF, I don't know, interim lightweight champion, they'd still say you still owe us $7 for the biggest coffee we make. I mean, it means nothing. I mean, it means almost, to me, it means almost nothing. But Guerrero, after a few, you know, competitive rounds, in about the 5th round, took the fight over and basically countered and, you know, sidestepped Katsidis and beat him from long range, kind of like we knew was going to happen. I think Guerrero is growing into the lightweight division a lot better than a lot of other guys that come up from featherweight too. Most namely, to me, Juan Manuel Marquez. But at the same time, his style is not one that is very fan-friendly or TV-friendly. And what I mean by that is, he thinks defense first, which is not a bad thing, but Katsidis, as it's being shown, is in the same boat Malinagi's in. He is a gatekeeper. He can beat just about everybody at AAA, but when put in with the elite, you know, he was only a punch or 2 away from beating Casamayor, and probably a punch or 2 away from putting Marquez away in the 3rd round of their fight. But the overall scheme of things, he's caught between AAA and the major leagues. He's the gatekeeper. And Guerrero's not necessarily an elite fighter, and I'm going to get more to this in a little bit, because I'm going to address these comments that have been going back and forth on my channel. It was a good win for Guerrero. It was a solid win for Guerrero. He is going to be a handful for Humberto Soto. He's going to be a handful for Bam Bam Bigelow there. What the hell's wrong with my brain today as far as forgetting these guys' real names? I shouldn't make nicknames for these people. Or any of the titleists, even Juan Manuel Marquez, he's going to offer some significant challenges to. I'm not really looking forward to any of that, because he is at a point where he can make a fight a stinky fight, which is what he does. It's not as bad as some other guys, but it's bad. Main event, Marcos Maidana versus Erik Morales. On paper, in my mind, this should have been a blowout. It normally would have been a blowout. But a couple of things happened on the way to fight night. And one of those things is the fighter who's supposed to get blown out is told he's supposed to get blown out and he shouldn't be fighting this fight. And he says, to hell with you, I'll show you. And the other thing too is that said fighter who's supposed to be blown out and finished sometimes looks at a fighter and he sees something in a fighter like Maidana that he can expose, or that's been exposed before by Amir Khan, who, guess what, is of similar size and shape as Erik Morales is. Am I correct? So Erik Morales takes this fight. The people at Golden Boy think he's crazy. I think he's crazy. Until they get in the ring. And the fight's on. Now, I'll give credit to Maidana. He did not take it easy on Morales. He tried his hardest. Maybe he thought the fight was going to be a little easy, even though he says he didn't. But right away, even in the first round, when he caught Morales with that uppercut, and it did damage to his eye, and his eye started swelling, it was game on. I mean, it was game on. And when you skip ahead to like the 5th, 6th, 7th rounds, and Morales is teeing off on Maidana, and it looks like Maidana's in bad trouble. It was to the point where you start to think to yourself, this looks like the Erik Morales that was fighting against Guerrero and against Pacquiao in the first fight, and all his fights at featherweight. I mean, in junior featherweight. And next thing you know, I mean, you're thinking maybe Morales is going to score a knockout, because he definitely hurt Maidana 2 or 3 times in the fight. Problem is, much like with his career at junior lightweight, where he strained to get down to weight, even though he didn't have to do that here, he started gassing out at the end. And just a little bit of busy work by Maidana, who showed he can box as well as brawl in small portions of the fight, was able to collect himself, and like a true, legitimate, active fighter, he righted the ship and was able to pull this out. Me, I'd be happy if this fight was scored a draw, and they could do this again. 8 rounds to 4 in favor of Maidana. I don't know what the hell they were watching. All right, the judges scored a draw. I'm with you. If you score for Maidana by a point or 2, I'm with you. If you score for Morales by a point, I'm with you. It's not 8 rounds to 4 either fighter. I mean, I'm just I pushed back from the computer. What the hell? I mean, I don't think Maidana won this fight 8 rounds to 4. I think if anything, maybe 6-5-1 or 7-5 by the slimmest of margins with very close rounds. Morales showed he could take the punches. I think that is a product of the rest he has gotten, and not just the rest from fighting. What a lot of people don't understand is the rest from training. Training actually conditions and kills. Conditions a fighter short term, kills a fighter long term. And mark my words by what I'm about to tell you, it happens to all the great fighters. Most notably was Marvin Hagler, because he went through the most intense training, even though he never let his body get out of shape. And lo and behold, all of a sudden, after his fight with Tommy Hearns, he didn't look the same anymore. He didn't look the same against John Mugabe. Mugabe shouldn't have even been in that fight. And then when he fought Sugar Ray Leonard, he was kind of not even himself that night. And I think what it is it wasn't damage put on Marvin Hagler. It was the training that took its toll eventually. And the same thing happened to Morales. It's going to happen again if he keeps fighting. It happens to all fighters who are serious, who are at the elite level. It's what their downfall is a lot of the time. Lack of training or too much training. There's no right or wrong, or Bernard Hopkins is maybe the only exception to the rule, that and Floyd Mayweather, they stay in tip-top shape, but understand they also rely on exquisite skills that nobody else has. And we saw with Sugar Ray Leonard, we saw with Sugar Ray Robinson, we saw with Roy Jones Jr. There'll be a day that every fighter who has exquisite skills is a half a step slower, and it falls apart from there, no matter what shape they're in. With Morales, I think personally, yes, the 6 fights with Barrera and Pacquiao combined, along with other high contact wars, like people forget that the fight with Jesus Chavez was a high contact fight. The fight with David Diaz, a high contact fight. The fight with Guti Espadas, the first fight, was a high contact fight. These take their toll on a person, but the training to get in the condition to be able to withstand those wars takes even more of a toll. And I think that's what really happened to him, and I think that's why he was so impressive. Now, what about this card in general? As many bad things as I say, I'm revisiting this from what I was saying before, as many bad things that I've had to say about Golden Boy promotions, this was a very good card. This was, I don't know if I'd say it was worth the money, because it was, what, $44.95? There were no major championships on the line, no major implications from this fight. You know, the number 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 pound-for-pound fighters in the world were not on this card. So, the price, maybe not, but the quality of each fight that they put up there, including the upset with James Kirkland, I feel that, you know, you give an hors d'oeuvre or a feeder with both Malignaggi and Nate Campbell's fights, and personally I think maybe they would make those two fight each other at 140 or a catchweight or something. And then you go on to the, you know, the stunner with Kirkland, and then ramp up to Guerrero and ramp up to Maidana and Morales. I think it was very well done. I think it was a very well put together card. I've got nothing bad to say about it. I think it was done really well. Now, on my last video, a gentleman named Ballistic, who I've had confrontation with before, was arguing back and forth with me about, you know, what's the difference between Golden Boy or Top Rank. There are many differences. One, Golden Boy has not taken any prospect from the Olympics or from pro debut and turned him into world champion yet. That's difference number one. Difference number two is that Golden Boy exists to steal other promoters' fighters, like with Donaire, like with Pacquiao. You know, even Victor Ortiz used to be a Top Rank or some other promoter. You know, Malignaggi, he was cast off by Lou DiBella, who's told him to retire. It wouldn't be surprising to me if Jermaine Taylor ends up with Golden Boy before it's all said and done. And Eric Morales was cast off by Top Rank. They didn't steal these guys; they legitimately signed them. Marco Antonio Barrera was the first big star signed by Golden Boy when Golden Boy was getting their feet in the ground. My thinking of this is this, and this is the difference between Top Rank and Golden Boy with this card. As good of a card as this was, probably the best pay-per-view card they've ever put on, in my opinion, which isn't that high of them. But I ask this question: where do you go from here? Where do you go from here? I mean, we've already seen Maidana against Amir Khan. All right, you're not going to put Morales against Amir Khan. Where do these guys go? Where does Robert Guerrero go? I mean, yes, he could be forced into a fight. They could leverage Guerrero into a fight with Juan Manuel Marquez, but you know, I'm gonna get to this real quick. Marquez thinks he's Pacquiao and Mayweather, where he gets to pick and choose his fights, and in some instances he does, because once you have that ring belt or that linear belt, nobody can take it away from you unless they beat you. So you can sit on that title like he's doing. Let me address these comments on the channel, because there's a couple of things that have been disturbing me, and they center straight around EGA0117. Listen, in light of the last few comments, in which I understand you want civil banter back and forth, you were put on the defensive for a specific reason, and that is just posting comments that have no factually based information to them. You said yourself, sometimes you don't do your homework. This is exactly what I'm talking about. Okay? One, I'm not disagreeing with you that in some parts of Chicago that some schools may teach a language called Mexican. Last time I checked, whether it's on Google Translator or on the higher university that I graduated from, or the higher educational facility in the state of Georgia, which is the University of Georgia, there was no Mexican foreign language offered. There was Spanish offered. So if you want to split hairs, that's fine. These are things that go into the back of my mind and build up. The next thing, point of interest, this thing about Mexican fighters that 85–90% of them are all face first, all offense, no defense. Alright, to some extent that is true. If we're encompassing every amateur all the way up to the elite level, that's true. That's what makes them special. That's why people love them. That's why people who are not Mexican love them. That's all there is to it. Right? There's no reason to argue about this. You're right about it. But Not all of them are like this. And the elite ones, as I pointed out, Miguel Canto, Gilberto Roman, Ricardo Lopez, Juan Manuel Marquez, the second half of Marco Antonio Barrera's career, later stages of Julio Cesar Chavez's career. They mixed defense with offense. I mean, the latter stages, the other ones, like Canto and Roman, were very good defensive fighters, as well as Ricardo Lopez. And there's almost like I get this feeling of this disdain for Juan Manuel Marquez. Look, I don't think the guy just deserves a third fight with Pacquiao. You know, if Pacquiao was going to go back to 135 and fight him there and say, I want your title, all right, I understand it then. But just because Golden Boy wants to get even with Pacquiao for all the fighters, their fighters he's laid waste to, no. And that's all I'm saying about this show. And that's going to be it for this week. Thanks, everybody.